sock it to us.
Attention, everybody. The views and opinions expressed on the show are not necessarily those of Acts Ministry, Acts Media Group, and/or their affiliate and subordinate ministries and/or nonprofits. It's that time again. It's the Happy Hour with your hosts, clowning around here in his town that he's birthday. It's Dr. Paul Collins and his love, Nancy. So without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, pay attention to the center stage. Here he is, Dr. Paul.
And coming to you from the center circle, the center ring in the circus of life. It is old Dr. Paul with sweet little Miss Nancy, and this is the Happy Hour. Comes around this same time every Friday morning. Amazing, isn't it? But today we're going to be doing some things. We're going to have some heavy duty stuff and some light duty stuff. So it's Variety Day. I want you to stay tuned and very quickly grab your phone and call a friend and tell a friend about the Happy Hour. Can we do that? I wanted to greet some wonderful folks right up front. I want to greet, first of all, someone I've never greeted that I remember on the broadcast, and that's our dear friend Sandy in north central Missouri. Her little town is a few shy of 1,100 people, and she's a beautiful lady, had a birthday just about 3 or 4 days ago, and she's just beautiful inside and out. I've known her for a long time and love her dearly, so hello, Sandy. Welcome to the Happy Hour. And then, of course, my first secretary, Shirley, in St. Joseph, Missouri. Nancy, I have to always greet Shirley. You know that last week I forgot to greet anybody. I didn't do it, so I want to do it right up front today. And Shirley was my first secretary when I was a pastor of a church in St. Joseph, Missouri. And I like to remind people that St. Joe, as we call it, sometimes it's called Joetown, but it was the home of the Pony Express, and it's the location where the infamous Jesse James was shot in the back while straightening a picture on the wall and murdered by Bob Ford. And so there was a song that went something like this, poetically. I won't try to sing it, but had to do with Jesse James had a fictitious name he was living under, Mr. Howard. And there's a song about Bob Ford, the dirty little coward who shot Mr. Howard and laid poor Jesse in his grave. And they have a Pony Express museum there. They have another museum. It's a great little city, maybe 80,000 people, approximately, give or take, on the Missouri River in northwest Missouri. Over in the other part of the state, around St. Louis area in Chesterfield, Jerry Chambers. He was an old St. Joe boy. He was a teenager in my church in St. Joe, and now he's a retired school administrator. Had a great career in the education industry. And Jerry Chambers, I want to say hello to you. Also, Judy Nickel down in Texas and Galen Garrett down in Texas.
And we've got Lyle and Darlene Way in Texas. And
Yes,
Dr.
Lyle
Terry.
and Darlene Way. He's a Christian novelist from Ransom Canyon, Texas.
And there's Dr.
Dr. Gage.
That's right, and his family.
Medical doctor in Lubbock, Texas, and Mark Elvers in Lubbock, Texas, and all of his little flock. Mark's a pastor, and goodness, we have people all over the place, Nancy, all over the place.
But guess who's all over the place? Really all over the place.
What's that?
Guess who's really all over the place?
Jesus.
That's right, the Holy Spirit.
That's
Woo,
right.
doggies.
That's right. And also hello to Tammy Renee Harris over in Illinois.
Yep.
Tammy is a beautiful lady, great voice. She sings what I call Broadway style, but mostly Christian music. However, she does crazy better than Patsy Cline or Willie Nelson. I mean, to tell you, she can really belt that song. Great lady. She has a website, TammyRenee.com. People need to check it out. Her music is on there too, and samples. of her music and her voice. You can see her in a church setting. You can see her at a some kind of a civic thing in a city park, and you can listen to some of her music. And it's an adventure to go on her website. Speaking of websites, our website, drpaulcollins.com, that's drpaulcollins.com. It's up and running, being added to weekly. It's gaining momentum. And our webmaster is Jim Comley. He lives up north of us here. And Jim is a very accomplished guy and doing a good job. Hello, Jim. Thanks for what you do for us, servicing the website. Also, way out in Kansas, Osborne, Kansas, another big metropolis, 1,500 people maybe, Merlin Brown. He's a journalist and an author and a Christian, a lot of insight. Merlin Brown is a very gifted and talented man. He's a seeker after truth. He reminds me of Jack Webb in the old Joe Friday TV series, way back before some of you were born, probably. But Jack Webb played Joe Friday, detective, and he would say, "The facts, just the facts, ma'am. I just want the facts." Well, Merlin Brown, he just wants the truth. Also, I'm pretty sure, excuse me, that another friend of ours, Virgil, is right here in Springburg, USA. Springfield, I call it Springburg. Virgil is here in this town, and I think he's a regular viewer. And by the way, some of you tell others about this broadcast, even though we're live right now, 9:30, thereabouts, Central Daylight Time until about 10:30. We are recorded also so that your friends can grab this broadcast later on YouTube and Facebook and so forth. Anyway, also, Nancy, I had an email this morning. I'm not sure who it was from, but I think it may have been from the niece of a friend of mine in my hometown of Moberly, the niece of Bud Pruitt. Bud and his wife have been real supporters of the ministry that you and I have, and Bud for many years was a fixture on Reed Street, which is the main street in Moberly, with his barber shop, and he had to give it up a number of years ago because of breathing problems, not connected with anything in the barber shop or with cutting hair. Anyway, I think the message may have been from his niece that Bud is in the hospital in Columbia with his breathing problems, and those of you who are inclined to pray, add Bud Pruitt to your prayer list, please. He's a dear, dear, dear and precious friend. And go to Tammy Renee's website, please, and go to the drpaulcollins.com website, and we will greatly appreciate it. Now, we're going to pick up the pace here a little bit with some more PR stuff for Acts Media Group. We want you to understand what you're watching. You're watching the Happy Hour with old Dr. Paul and sweet little Miss Nancy, and we are a part of Acts Media Group, and Acts Media Group is a division or a department of Acts Ministry. Acts Ministry was begun officially in August of 1993, 27 years ago, and unofficially in month of April in 1993, when we first received a call to establish this independent ministry that's trans-denominational, trans-doctrinal. Unity in Christ through the Holy Spirit is the mission statement, has been all these years, remains that way. And the first motto was one I gave it, serving where needed. And then Dr. Jim Whining, who's been president now for 6 years, he also added another motto, doing the right thing. And so this is a department of Acts Ministry called Acts Media Group, and this is the Happy Hour broadcast. Having said that, there's programming Monday through Friday, and I hope you'll make it a point to go on the Acts Media Group website, actsmediagroup.com, find the list for yourself. But, and I'm having voice deals this morning. Anyway, every morning, Monday through Friday, you can catch the Morning Drive. The hosts are Matt Pearson and Jason Cobb. and Matt is the station manager, and Jason is a shift manager. Then on Mondays from 9 until 10, excuse me, Brighter Living with your host, Steve McAllister, who quite often is a guest on Morning Drive. And then on Mondays from 10, from 9, they got this wrong on here. On Monday from 10 until 11 is Sacred Ways with Troy and Belinda Johansson. And Troy is First American, and a very interesting show. All these shows are interesting. On Tuesdays from 9 until 10, the Spirit in America with Randy Barr. Great little show. And then Steve Albright has a great show on Tuesdays from 10 until 11. Crime Time. He's a security expert, and you just have to watch him. Then on Wednesdays from 9 until 10, the new gold standard, Tony Hammock. Now, I can tell you, Tony has an intense, very pervasive knowledge of all things financial, all things economic, all things about money and investments, all of that, and about gold and silver and other precious metals.
Doesn't he have some a lot of information on insurance also?
Oh yes, thank you, Nancy. Yes, lots of information about all kinds of insurance. You need to pay attention to Tony Hammock. And then on Wednesdays from 10 until 11, there's a program that I had the privilege of naming, as I named the happy hour. This one's called Open Ended, and it's with Peggy Lee and Jeff with a G, or Jeff with a G. Peggy Lee Brennan was movie star. She was on television on the MASH series. She was the first female lead in the Broadway production of Grease. Her husband Jeff, Broadway performer. They live in this area now, and they do a regular show, and it is fabulous. They bring in some people who are great performers, and they have a great show in Branson, 3 evenings a week, early in the evening. You would really enjoy it. But anyway, Open-Ended with Peggy and Jeff. Then on Thursdays from 9 until 10 in the morning, Penny for Your Thoughts. The host is Susan Abar, A-B-A-R. And then on Fridays from 9 until 9:30, just preceding us, is The Morning Mouth, M-O-U-T-H. The host is Johnny Rooster. It's a good show. He just left before we came on. Then there's some new afternoon and evening shows. On Mondays from 3 to 4, House of God Ministries with Beth Hicks. 4 to 5 is a children's program. 5 to 6 is a recovery program, that is recovery from all kinds of addictions. On Tuesdays from 3 to 4 with hosts Beverly Lee and Leanne Martin. That'll begin September the 8th. The other one begins September 14th. That's coming up right away. Children's program, 4 to 5. Programming to be announced from 5 to 6. That's on Tuesdays. On Wednesdays, Stahl's Ministry in Word and Song. Stahl is the name of the person, the couple, S-T-A-H-L, Stahl. Stahl's Ministry in Word and Song from 3 to 4. Bill and Anita French Stahl. I know Anita. She may not remember me, but I remember her. I met her in Branson. Great Christian singer. Children's programming, 4 to 5. Programming to be announced from 5 to 6 on Thursdays. Now, don't give up on me. This is important information. I'm whetting your appetite about the programming on Acts Media Group. Thursdays, Exposing the Candy-Coated Cult from 3 to 4. That's powerful. The host, Nimra Roden. That'll be the first and third Thursdays. Journey of Truth from 3 to 4 with Daryl and Nimra Roden. Second and fourth Thursdays. So they've got Thursdays pretty well booked up for you. Children's program, again, that day, 4 to 5. And programming to be announced from 5 to 6. On Fridays, beginning soon, program from 3 to 4 entitled Beside Still Waters. With the host, Joni Buchanan. Wonder what that could be. I think it's going to be very good, very good. Beside still waters. He leadeth me beside the still waters. Restoreth my soul. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. For thou art with me.
Yeah.
Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Whoa. 23rd Psalm. I don't know for sure, but I'm guessing besides still waters probably has a spiritual side to it. Joni Buchanan. Children's program in 4 to 5. Recovery from 5 to 6. Great lineups. Be sure and help spread the word about Acts Ministry and Acts Media Group, all this great programming, actsmediagroup.com, and find the donate button. Now, I didn't tell you all that just to get a donation, but I want to tell you, all this good stuff is free, but the delivery of it costs something. So it would be very helpful, very, very, very helpful if you find that donate button on the website and do a little something every week, at least every month, a little something every month to make a big difference. And if you do, tell them old Dr. Paul sent you. How's that? Well, Nancy, it's time, before we get into really heavy stuff, to do something here that's a little lighthearted. Are you ready for some lightheartedness?
Oh, boy, and how.
Okay. Now, this came via the wonderful internet, www. Wonder how many people know what that stands for? World Wide Web. And HTTP, highway something or other, something or other, something or other. Okay, this came by way of the internet, and it's not original with me. It was, and some of you may have gotten it in your inbox, entitled Men Are Just Happy People. I thought this would be appropriate for the happy hour. Men are just happy people. They said this needs no explanation, and it's a fun read no matter your gender. So if you can print this off like I have, or you want to read it in your email box or whatever, it's fun to read, and whether you're a man or a woman, you'll like it. Men are just happier people. What do you expect from such simple creatures? I'm a man, so I get to read this. Your last name stays put, no matter what. You get married, you keep your last name. The garage is all yours. Well, now I take issue with that because Nancy and I drive around through some very nice neighborhoods here in Springburg, USA, and some folks leave the garage door up, and the stuff I see packed in those garages is not just male gender stuff. I see a lot of stuff that could belong to female gender or either, non-gender stuff. So, but anyway, the garage is all yours. Okay. Wedding plans take care of themselves. If you're a man, wedding plans take care of themselves. If you're a man, chocolate is just another snack. If you're a man, get this one. They're trying to change this one. We're not a canned show. It's real, it's live. So if we have throat problems or whatever, it shows up. This one they're trying to change. If you're a man, you can never be pregnant. If you're a man, you can wear a white T-shirt to a water park. If you're a man, you can wear no shirt to a water park. If you're a man, car mechanics tell you the truth. You never have to drive to another gas station to the restroom because this one's just too icky. You don't have to stop and think of which way to turn a nut on a bolt. You just automatically know lefty-loosey, righty-tighty if you're a man. If you're a man, wrinkles add character. Wrinkles to your face, that is.
Mm.
If when you think about a wedding dress, could cost maybe $5,000, but a man can rent a tux for $100. New shoes don't cut, blister, or mangle your feet. And you have one mood all the time. Seeing men are usually not moody, not that women are. Phone conversations are over in 30 seconds flat. I don't think so. You know stuff about tanks. We're talking about military tanks. Nowadays we have some women who are tank commanders. A 5-day vacation requires only one suitcase. Now that one's probably true. You can open all your own jars. No, not necessarily. Sometimes old Arthur Ritus comes to move in, and man can't handle it and hands it over to his wife, who hasn't been visited by Arthur Ritus, and she opens the jars. You get extra credit for the slightest act of thoughtfulness. Well, what's that have to do with the price of tea in China? Nothing. If someone forgets to invite you, he or she can still be your friend. They're being a little unkind to women with this, I'd say. Your underwear is $8.95 for a 3-pack. 2 pairs of shoes are more than enough. You almost never have strap problems in public. Finally, I get through to sweet little Miss Nancy. Maybe some of you other ladies too.
Oh, that's good.
If you're a man, you're unable to see wrinkles in your clothes. How about this one? If you're a man, everything on your face stays its original color. That means women have a tendency to kind of cover the original color with another color. If you're a man, the same hairstyle lasts for years, maybe decades. I know a guy who's worn a very short flat top his entire life, and he's my age. And you know him. And I won't give his name, but his nickname is Booger. He's had the same flat top his whole life.
Well,
And he will, well, it works for him.
yeah.
If we saw him with his hair any other way, we'd think he'd lost his mind, or we wouldn't even know him.
Yeah, if his hair was like yours, it's like we would think he's become a slouch.
Yeah. Okay.
Think
I
about
got
it.
it. I got it. Yeah, I'm needing a little trim. Okay. And if you're a man, you only have to shave your face and neck. Now we've got some men who are not even doing that. You know, just letting it grow willy-nilly wherever he wants to be.
Willie Nelson.
Yeah, Willie Nelson's a good example. Facial hair, long hair, braids, pigtails. Oh, you can play with toys all your life if you're a man. There used to be a car lot here in Springburg, USA. It said, Toys for Boys.
They've still got it here.
It's still here?
Yeah.
Okay, if you're a man, you have one wallet and one pair of shoes, one color for all seasons. If you're a man, you can wear shorts no matter how your legs look. By the way, Nancy knows I call, when spring comes along in Springburg, USA, I call it the beginning of ugly leg season. You can see more ugly legs in the springtime until fall. Some people, you know, even some of the postal workers, we've seen them wearing shorts in the wintertime.
Mm-hmm.
Something about shorts. I call it the ugly leg season. And guess what? Now, I saw some women yesterday when we were out and about doing a little shopping. I'm sitting in the car while Nancy's doing her thing, and I watched, there were some women who shouldn't have been showing their legs under any circumstances, but not only were they showing them, they had them tattooed to make sure you saw them. Ugly leg season, and then you're going to accentuate the ugliness with tattoos. Give me a break. But what about men? I saw a man at that same store he walked out. It was ugly leg season, and he had tattoos all over his legs, his arms. He's wearing a sleeveless T-shirt, tank top type thing. Everything that showed was tattooed except his face. And I thought, as I understand that tattoos are pretty expensive, so if he had all that money he spent on tattoos in a good investment program, when he's ready to retire, he'd have something, because he was a fairly young man. Anyway, just my take on it. One wallet, one pair of shoes, one color for all seasons. You can wear shorts no matter how your legs look. Okay, that one's no longer true because women wear shorts no matter what. If you're a man, you can do your nails with a pocket knife. That's true. I carry a little pocket knife all the time. I never leave home, unless I'm taking a walk up the block and back, never leave home without my penknife. Always have a penknife. And it's so dull, you can't cut thread with it, but you can clean your nails. Okay. If you're a man, you have the freedom of choice concerning growing a mustache. Well, we know what that means. If you're a man, you can do Christmas shopping for 25 relatives on December 24th, Christmas Eve, in 25 minutes. And then she says, no wonder men are happier. Now, this writer, obviously a woman, talks about nicknames. She says if Laura, Kate, and Sarah go out for lunch, they will call each other Laura, Kate, and Sarah. By the way, Jane Campbell forgot to greet you up there in Lawrence, Kansas. Hello, dear. We love you very much. Take care of yourself. Stay in touch. If Mike, Dave, and John go out for lunch, they will affectionately refer to each other as Fat Boy, Bubba, and Wild Man. When it comes to eating out, this writer says, when the bill arrives, Mike, Dave, and John will each throw in $20, even though it's only for $32.50. None of them will have anything smaller, and none will actually admit they want change back. Well, that's about 80% true. When the girls get their bill, out come the pocket calculators. Three ladies that get the bill for lunch, and they're starting to figure up how much a third is of whatever, and then figure the tip.
Well, why didn't they just pay for their own instead of have 3 bills instead of 1 bill?
Well, because it wouldn't fit in with the script.
Oh.
See, remember what I tell you about TV shows? Mm-hmm. The reason they are the way they are is because it's a show. Mm. Okay. When it comes to money, a man will pay $2 for a $1 item he needs. A woman will pay $1 for a $2 item that she doesn't need, but it's on sale.
Yeah, I'll go for that. Depends on what it is, though.
Okay, now here's our take about men and bathrooms. A man has 6 items in his bathroom. He has a toothbrush and toothpaste, shaving cream, razor, bar of soap, and a towel. That's 6 items. The average number of items in the typical woman's bathroom is 337. A man would not be able to identify more than 20 of those 337. I think she's onto something there. That's why when we watch these home shows where the woman's always worried about how much counter space there is in the bathroom. And
well, the man should be too, bless his heart.
Yeah, and I sometimes think they're so concerned about having dual sinks in the bathroom, lavatories. They ought to be, that sink takes up some space. They're usually not standing there working with water at the same time. So have one lavatory and lots of counter space and plenty of cabinet space, because those 337 items have to go someplace, men, even though you can't name 20 of them. How about that? Now, about arguments. A woman has the last word in any argument. We could argue over that.
Yeah, I'll argue over that. I'd say that Jesus has the last word. You may not know it.
But it's good to be reminded.
I know, that's right.
Okay. Anything a man says after that last word is the beginning of a new argument. That's probably true. There comes a time, man, when you just need to shut up and learn how to nod. Be able to nod, yes, dear, without saying yes, dear, just nod. Remember, there was a sitcom where they would say, not that there's anything wrong with that.
Yes.
And then remember that one, that other sitcom where he kept saying, I understand, I understand. He had that woman eating out of his hands because she hated him. But he just kept saying, I understand. And pretty soon she was hugging him and thanking him because he was the only person who understood her.
Oh, yeah, and I contend that he really didn't. That was just something to say.
No, it was. He
Yeah.
didn't. Somebody had told him that that's what he had to say, and that's what he was doing. All right. Concerning the future, a woman worries about the future until she gets a husband. Not necessarily nowadays. A man never worries about the future until he gets a wife. There's a little bit of truth to that. About marriage, this writer says a woman marries a man expecting he will change, but he doesn't. A man marries a woman expecting that she won't change, but she does. I get a kick out of seeing some of these wedding pictures of people who are celebrating their 50th or 60th wedding anniversary. People change a lot, but I contend that women seem to change more than men. I don't know. Maybe it's because women are just more beautiful.
You know, we've got 18 more years till we're been married 60 years.
Well,
That's
not,
a short amount of time.
how many years? 18?
Yeah.
Okay. And then we'll be married 60 years. In the meantime, in 15 years, I'll be 100.
Yeah.
So when we celebrate our 60th, I'll be 103.
Yeah.
That's what I'll be here. Probably right here on TV. Okay, dressing up. A woman will dress up to go shopping, water the plants, empty the trash, answer the phone, read a book, and get the mail. Now, we know someone who wouldn't answer the door without putting on makeup years ago. A man will dress up for two things, weddings and funerals. And nowadays, that's even a little sketchy because we're in a day without neckties. We're in a day when some good old boy may show up at a wedding or a funeral wearing a big cowboy hat. And if he's in this part of the country, some other parts of the country, he'll show up wearing a ball cap. There's a lot of ball caps around. You notice that? I noticed this morning, put in a little plug for Johnny Rooster. He was wearing a ball cap. And, of course, Matt Pearson wears one most of the time, and Jason Cobb and Steve McAllister. A lot of ball cap wearing going on. I wear one to keep the sun off, and sometimes, because when Nancy's shopping, I'll stay in the car, and I'll wear a ball cap and pull it down over my eyes just enough to shade my eyes a little bit so that I can meditate. Okay, about natural things. This writer says, men wake up as good looking as they went to bed. Now, also, that if they happen to be not good looking, they don't wake up looking any better. In other words, if a man's ugly, he'll be ugly when he wakes up. If he's pretty, he'll be pretty when he wakes up. If he's handsome, he'll be handsome when he wakes up.
That's an opinion.
Well, that's an opinion, yeah. But, you know, we have some guys that will look at somebody else and say, well, he's a pretty boy. He's a pretty boy. Or somebody else, isn't he handsome? And the others look at somebody and say, whoa, he looks like he'd been hit with an ugly stick. But listen about women. Women somehow deteriorate during the night. I hope, Pam Whining, I hope you're taking note of this. You probably received the same thing from the same person online that I received it from. Now about offspring, that is, having to do with children. Children. A woman knows all about her children. She knows about dentist appointments and romances, best friends, favorite foods, secret fears, and hopes and dreams. A man is vaguely aware of some short people living in the house. Well, women are more in tune with the children and men. And I think a lot of this goes back many years ago, that some of this thinking, because there was a time when women were at home all the time and men were out working, and that such is not the case today. But that's kind of a cute little thought there. Thought for the day. A married man should forget his mistakes. There's no use in two people remembering the same thing. You get the idea there. So, send this to the women who have a sense of humor and to the men who will enjoy reading. I enjoyed reading it. Surely did. Okay, Nancy, are we ready for some more difficult news?
Boy in hell.
All right. Right now, big time in the news, more than any time since, in my opinion, World War II, which, by the way, I remember very well. I was alive and well as a young boy in World War II. Right now, I believe, since World War II, we have more China in the news than ever before. Even more so than during the Korean conflict, it was called, when the Chinese came in to try to rescue the North Koreans when MacArthur was prevailing. But right now, China is in the news big time because of the monetary system, economics, trade, and militarily. Heard the other day, which probably most of you heard, China now has the world's largest navy. I heard this morning how many ships, like 350 ships or something like that, to our 200, and we have like 100 fewer ships. But they feel like the United States still has a naval advantage because we have more naval ports around the globe than China has. But nonetheless, China's navy is now the largest in the world. China's economy is almost the largest, second only to the United States, and it's very close. There's not much distance between them. China and Britain had an agreement concerning Hong Kong, that after 50 years, Hong Kong would be returned to the Chinese. And the Chinese in that agreement said that for the first 50 years after retrieving that area, that they would not change the government. 25 years into the second 50, China has changed the rules, and Hong Kong is now under the same governmental system, which is extreme socialism, communism, totalitarianism, as mainland China. And so our trade relations with Hong Kong being changed, and some others who are really into the banking industry would know more about this aspect of it, but I would say that even the banking idea and money, flow of money and all that, changed because of right now our government saying not business as usual with Hong Kong, because China has now converted Hong Kong to be just like China.
So, to butt in, so anybody that believes in socialism and all those isms are asking for this country to become like China, Hong Kong, and all of that.
Yes, people right now, they're trying to, here's my opinion. We don't hear the word communist very much in the United States because the people who are what we call left in their political stance, they don't like that word because they don't like to use it because it doesn't set well with the average American. So their fallback word was socialism, because they feel like socialism is more acceptable. Then to make it even more acceptable, they call it democratic socialism. That's kind of like I have said about credit cards. First of all, when I was a kid, the word credit, if it was used, people didn't like it. You know, like, you don't buy something on credit. Instead, people reluctantly admitted to buying stuff on time. They said time payments. And then they made credit a good word. You should have good credit. And then along came credit cards, and I have said that the genius of the credit card, which now the credit card industry is huge, the genius was not in the plastic, it wasn't in the embossed lettering on it, wasn't in the bank system, it was in the name. They named it credit card because credit became a good word. They didn't name it a debt card because nobody would go around bragging that they had 12 debt cards in their wallet. But there are some people who will brag about how many credit cards they have. Nancy, probably 15 years ago, or more than that, it's been over 20 years ago, I knew a man who gave up a job in Springburg, USA, at a chain restaurant. That is, it was a restaurant that wasn't a franchise, but it was a company-owned part of a large chain of restaurants. He gave up that job as managing it. He went totally broke. He already had lost his family, but he was totally broke. He got down to the point where he didn't have an automobile. He was close to being homeless. There was some older lady who let him have a room to sleep in, and if he would wanted to shower, it had to be early in the morning, very early in the morning. It couldn't be at night because it might wake her up. He was living under extreme circumstances. Somehow, he ended up in Kansas and went to work for a nice little enterprise there. And by about that time, they got so you could get a credit card with limited amount on it, like $200 or $300. And if you would charge something on it and pay it back, then you got more credit, more credit, more credit. He did that, came back to Springfield. I saw him, and he was bragging about the car he was driving. Pretty nice Oldsmobile, as I recall. And then he pulled out all these credit cards. He had a string of them. And he passed through Springfield. That's when I saw him. He went to Branson, moved into basically a bed and breakfast, full-time, maxing out those credit cards. When he had them all maxed out, his health broke. He ended up in a nursing home in Springfield and with nothing. I walked in one day to visit him, and I saw immediately he was dying. He was having a heart attack. And I called some of the nursing staff. I said, you got to get him to the hospital right away. He's going to die. He is in the process. And they snatched him back from the grave. He went back to the nursing home, and I visited him a few times, and that's where he died. Credit isn't always good. So anyway, we got off on that because we were talking about China and communism. Communism, not a good word in America, so they fall back to socialism, then democratic socialism. And this has been...
that's where you have everything taken care of.
Oh, yeah. They basically, they're talking about free university education.
Health care.
Free health care. And somebody has to pay the bill. But and talking about weakening the military, talking about changing the function of our city police and state police so that, especially city police in large cities, so that they are more, they more closely resemble social workers I don't mean to be extreme about that, but because that is a little extreme. But in other words, it's almost like partially disarming the police. So these changes are in the mix, and there are people encouraging it by the demonstrations that are going on in the streets of some cities. Portland, Oregon is now past 100 nights of violence, and now their mayor has had to move because those that he had been protecting as the demonstrators who were being violent.
And he's the one that should have put his foot down and done something about it. But he's letting them push him out.
Yeah, so he's having to move to protect his family and his neighbors.
Yeah.
The mayor of Chicago, I saw on the news this morning, is moving to protect herself and her family and her neighbors. So there's a breakdown in law and order, and they call themselves Black Lives Matter. They call themselves progressives. They call themselves democratic socialists sometimes. They call themselves Antifa, that is anti-fascist. It doesn't matter what you call it, folks. Please don't get offended with me unless you want to. But we are having demonstrations the like of which I have not seen since the late 60s. And these are even worse now. And there seems to be no end in sight. We wonder who's going to do something. And in the meantime, China is growing and growing and growing, and their navy is now the largest. And now they also build islands. They take a shallow part of the strait between themselves and Taiwan, and they build it up, call it Chinese territory. Then they claim the 12 miles around it as international waters. They're paving the way, experts believe, for another attempted invasion of Taiwan. Now, Taiwan is a large island off the coast of mainland China. And I remember when Chiang Kai-shek was the president of China, and in World War II, he fought against the Japanese who had invaded, and the Japanese controlled Taiwan, which was then known as Formosa. And wait a minute, was that Korea? Korea was known as Formosa, one of the two. Anyway, Taiwan got their name changed. When the Japanese were defeated, and Mao Zedong had run Chiang Kai-shek out of the mainland, he went to Taiwan. And they set up a democratic republic there. Big difference between a democratic republic and a democratic socialist state, by the way. And people forget, or maybe they didn't know, that more than once China attempted to invade Taiwan.
See, also, I'll butt in, the reason why they may not know it is because they're not taught in school anymore.
No, it's true. So I remember seeing Chinese bodies floating along the coastline of Taiwan. They'd even tried to come in on like on surfboards, on their stomachs, paddling their way in and so forth. But now China is very strong militarily, and they're building these islands. They play the long game, not the short game.
Yeah, and here's the thing, but then again, you've got to have somebody in this country that plays the long game, that's looking past today and tomorrow.
That's right.
You've got to have somebody that knows what they're doing and how to do it for, say, several years, so that you can head things off at the pass. That's right for this God-fearing country.
Right. I urge those of you in our audience, whether you be liberal, moderate, or conservative, to get your focus where it needs to be. Now, I found it sad and amusing same time. Like in the theater world, they have a frowning face and a smiley face for comedy and for drama, for happiness and for sadness. I thought it was little bit humorous and at the same time sad. This deal with Nancy Pelosi, Congresswoman from San Francisco, who is the Speaker of the House of Representatives of the United States of America, in an area where beauty salons are shut down. They filmed her in a beauty salon with no mask, and her hair was wet, and it was, the article I read was entitled, "She Had a Wash and Blowout." And now, because the news media played this up big time, not just the conservative media, but I get, as you know, I get the liberal media and the middle of the road and the conservative, all of it, on two computers on my desk, and I try to see what one is saying, what the other is saying, etc. It doesn't make me a saint, but I do try to stay informed on all sides. All the media that I checked were examining why in the world she would put herself in that kind of position to be seen going exactly against 100% sharp right angles against what she'd been asking others to do.
I know, but that's the way she is and the way that whole bunch is.
Right, I agree. But anyway, I thought it was kind of humorous, but then on the other hand, it's pretty sad too, because that becomes a lightning rod for attention, and we have some people paying more attention to that than they are to the story about China's Navy
That's right.
and the threat that they pose. So let's be careful where we put our interest. More attention was paid to Nancy Pelosi's wet hair in her robe in a beauty salon than was being paid to killings in the streets. It's not just demonstration, but you know, in Portland, I guess it was, or Seattle, they, on purpose, they showed it on TV. They shot and killed a man who was there as a counter-protester. He was a Trump supporter, and I saw it on TV. They shot him. They said, "There's another one," and they shot him, meaning another Trump supporter, and he went down, and they stood over him, and he put 2 more bullets in him. That story kind of gets pushed away. A little kid on a tricycle, little kid, 5 years old, about, no, maybe not even that old, a couple of weeks ago, man comes out of his house, puts a gun to his head, and blew the brains out of that little boy on a tricycle for no reason other than hate and demonic activity. These kinds of stories are getting covered up. They're all, our attention's being distracted. But in the meantime, I've beat on that horse long enough. We know this is the kind of world we have. I will say this. This morning at 9:30, in the headquarters of a large ministry headquartered close to Springfield, they started a prayer meeting. All of the staff and area people who wanted to be involved, a prayer meeting for this nation at 9:30 this morning. That needs to make news. The only way that can make news is if we do it. There has to be enough of that going on that the media can't ignore it. So anyway, a prayer meeting started this morning at 9:30. I'm sure it's still going. It's now 10:25 approximately. I wanted to say a little bit more. I brought stacks of bad news. Don't need any more because we're running out of time. I've tried to give you some positive word about Acts Media Group and the programming, a little humor about the difference between men and women. May not be the best humor in the world, but it's the best I could find for the day. And I've tried to bring you some hard news. But I want to bring you an encouraging word that if another group in the Springfield area could be praying at 9:30 this morning, we need to have more of that happening. Nancy and I are the pastors of a small church here in Springburg, USA. And it's called First Acts Church. And we meet a couple of Sunday afternoons a month, and we no longer have a public meeting place because of the COVID-19 shutdown, but we managed to get together in some homes. And it's a good time. And I urge those of you who come across this broadcast that if you're not involved in some Christian circle on a size that meets government requirements, let's not break the law, stay within the reaches of the requirements in these COVID-19 days, but get together and dare to pray, dare to believe that God hears you, dare to believe that God actually answers prayer.
I know that's right.
Dare
Toby,
to believe it. That's what I
right.
say.
That's right.
If you want a little guidance in this, my information's on the website, so I might as well give it to you. My email is dr, that's for doctor, dr Paul Collins at sbcglobal.net, and you'll find it on drpaulcollins.com. I'm in my 66th year of ministry. I began in ministry when I was 19. I went through college, added a little bit more college after graduating from a highly accredited old college, private college. And then I went for a 90-hour graduate degree, and I earned that, a Master of Divinity. And then I went on and for another 60 hours of postgraduate work, earned a degree in Christian psychology. What was the difference between that and regular psychology? Nothing, except the difference between getting the degree in 3 years, a PhD. This one took me 5 years to get a THD. T is in Tom, THD. And instead of just calling it psychology, because it's a THD, that 5-year program after college, which meant 9 years altogether, it's called Christian psychology. Anyway, not apologizing for that, just clearing the information. So, you know, with all of this stuff, I look at what's going on around me and I compare it naturally to how it was when I was in high school in the 50s, happy days, and I compare it to when I was in elementary school and World War II was going on. I compare it to the days when 2 brothers went off to World War II and a 3rd brother got his draft notice for the Korean War. And I look back and I compare, and then I compare how church used to be. I have not worn a suit or a tie since the 3rd Sunday in February because I haven't had a pulpit, but I still have a mouth, and I have some people around me, and it's now time to leave the air. Thank you for listening to us. Next Friday, we have some wonderful guests coming up in the weeks ahead, but next Friday, we'll do whatever seems to be right for the time, right for the day. Until then, we want you to stay blessed.